the Christian Circle podcast, and you're listening to Pamela Fernandes, where we have conversations about Christian living. Here's the show. Hi everyone, it's April 2017, which means in 16 days we'll be celebrating Easter. Yes, Easter is going to be here in 16 days, so I'm so excited about that, but we're still in Lent at the moment. So because of that, we're actually going to be doing another podcast on the 3 pillars of Lent. Now, this is from Charles Johnston, our guest for today, who is also a blogger, a very prominent blogger. You must have read his blogs at Now That I'm a Catholic. And in keeping with Easter, which is also a time for gifts, we're going to be giving mugs this month. Yes, we're giving mugs, and I know the rafflecopter was broken last month. I don't know why, it just wouldn't show up on the WordPress site. So we're going to do a rafflecopter this time again, but we're also going to use the contact forms. So if you're interested in winning a mug for Easter, then please send your name and email address to through the contact form. And hopefully we will enter you into a raffle. And we will be giving 1 mug this month as a gift to our surprise winner, whoever that is. So without keeping you on the podcast, let's go over to Charles Johnston.
Well, my name's Charles Johnston. I live in Arizona, United States, and I recently converted to Catholicism after being a Christian pretty much my entire life, and just started writing, trying to I run a blog that I try to connect with regular everyday people.
Okay, right. So you've talked about these basics of the 3, these 3 pillars of Lent. So tell us, how does this make us be a better people? Tell us about these 3 pillars.
Well, really, Lent, when I was in our state, that's the process in which you become Catholic.
Yeah.
They called Lent the purification and enlightenment, and I really like that. And so I kind of keep that to myself. When I think about Lent, I remind myself it's purification and enlightenment. And it's really, a time to kind of prepare yourself for, because there's such a glorious thing, the resurrection of our Savior. So it really reminds us of this glorious event that's coming, Easter, and it prepares us for it, just the way Jesus prepared for his ministry, beginning by 40 days in the desert.
Yeah.
And, Moses was on the mountain twice for 40 days meeting with God, and Elijah walked to Mount Horeb to meet God, 40 days.
Yeah.
It's very symbolic to the 40 days of preparation for something, amazing that's about to happen. And, I can't think of anything more amazing than Easter.
Yeah.
So that's really an amazing thing. That's a good preparation it's through the darkness, because Lent's kind of a dark time. A lot of people going and confessing and, penance and stuff like that, almsgiving and penance and abstaining from meat and fasting. So there's a lot of things going on during Lent. And it's a good time to prepare for the light that comes at Easter. You really enjoy light more after darkness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's how it really helps us be a better Easter people.
And you mentioned 3 things. You mentioned prayer, you mentioned almsgiving, and you mentioned abstinence. First thing about prayers, I went through your blog, and I must say, maybe no one's told you this, but that you actually put all those things in that, because I incorporated a few things, and I remember you said the rosary was you do minutes. It never takes me 22 minutes.
Yeah.
It's more like 40 minutes for me. But
well, I got quick. One of my parish priests here.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to confession with him, it doesn't matter if you stub your toe or if you committed serial murder. It's the rosary is your penance, So yeah. I got a little faster with the rosary because of that. Because, it didn't matter what I thought the first time I went to him, he gave me say a rosary as penance. I was like, oh man, I messed up this week. But then the next week I went back, and it was just like I lost my temper with my kids once. Okay, say a rosary. I said, okay, this just must be his normal thing,
So take us through the entire list of all the suggestions you made for increasing prayer.
Right. Well, I had a list, and after when I initially published it, I actually forgot my favorite. I don't know how I done that, but I forgot my favorite Lenten prayer practice, and that's Stations of the Cross. So I really want to start out with that one. Even before I was Catholic, I loved praying the Stations of the Cross, just because it focuses you on the passion of Jesus, the 1st through 14th station. Yeah. I had the pleasure of being in Jerusalem a couple of years ago in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and at I think it was 3 or 4 o'clock every day, the Franciscans lead a procession around inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, praying the Stations of the Cross. And that's just, if there's something you can experience in your life, one pilgrimage to make, I'd have to definitely recommend that. But even through the streets of Jerusalem, they have the actual places. And it was, I think it was St. Francis is the one who, St. Francis of Assisi, popularized the Stations of the Cross for pilgrims that couldn't make the trip from Europe to the Holy Land because of the Crusades and because of the Islamic conquest and stuff. So Christians around Europe would start praying them, and I always found it a great practice, and it really, you forget about it throughout the year. You know, you see them in church, and if you're Catholic, you see them, you know, in the church every time you go to church, but you forget that you can pray. You don't have to just do it during Lent, but, you know, your parish usually tells you, you know, on Friday we're having a Station of the Cross service at 6 or 7 o'clock, whatever it is, and it reminds you. And so I try to carry it on throughout the year, and like I said, it kind of something that kind of, you get busy with life and stuff, but it's something I'd really like to continue. It's one of my favorite ones. What other else do I have in your prayer time? Set aside, praying's hard. You know, it's hard to set aside time for prayer. You're never gonna get 30 to 40 an hour of prayer a day unless you make the time for it, because we all live busy lives. You know, especially I'm a parent. I got 3 kids here at home, and it's just hard. You know, so I try to set aside at least 20 minutes just for prayer. Dedicate that to God, and then increase it as you go. You know, if you're already praying 20 minutes a day, try praying 30 minutes a day. You can never pray too much, but you have to balance it, because we're not desert hermits that live out in the deserts where we can pray 23 hours a day and sleep for 1 hour. You know, so you do have to kind of. It's a balance. Everything's a balance. Rosary, that's a wonderful prayer that I've been trying to get more into. You know, it's very particularly the Catholic prayer. So even though there is some Anglicans and stuff that pray it. But that's something I've been trying to get more into. Like I said in the post, that 22 minutes is a long stretch of time to dedicate to something, because I try to do 20 minutes in the morning when I first wake up. Throughout the day. I like the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. That's one of my favorites too. If you just listen to the words of it, you know, for the sake of the sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. I think it's so beautiful. And when I first heard of it, several ago, you see them signs, Jesus, I trust in you, the image of divine mercy. Here in America too. I was in Texas at the time. I started noticing all through the hill country of Texas, you have these signs, just like in every little town. You know, they have a billboard of the Divine Mercy image. Very Catholic area of Texas, outside of San Antonio. And so I started looking more into it, and you think it's like pleading for God's mercy, but it really, when you really think about it, it isn't pleading for His mercy. It's being thankful for His mercy. His mercy is already there. So it's like the Kyrie eleison during Mass. You know, the Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. I always used to think of that as like groveling before the King for mercy, but it really isn't. It's Christ, you know, you called the sinner, Lord have mercy. You came to repair a broken heart. You know, it really is. Christ has already offered us His mercy, so we're just being thankful for it. So that's one of the reasons I love the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And then what else do I have there? Scripture readings. You know, that St. Augustine said, we speak to God through prayer, and God speaks to us through the Word of God, through the Scripture. So I think it's really great to try to read as much as you can, at least a few minutes a day, a few verses. And if you do Lectio Divino, where you focus in on one particular verse, you meditate on it. And during RCIA, they taught us to, you read the verse, and then you read it again and picture yourself as a person there in the audience. That Jesus is speaking to.
That's true.
And then you picture yourself there, and then you picture that Jesus is actually, now you turn it around the third time you read it, you picture Jesus is speaking this directly to you. You're the subject of the conversation. And it really changes the way you read things. You know, like if you read the story about the Samaritan woman at the well, and you think Jesus is talking directly to you, I can give you this living water. It really does. It changes the way you see different parts of the Bible. Another thing I had on there was daily Mass. That's something I'd really love to do, but it's hard. That's one of the harder ones, because just taking the time to do it. I guess it's possible for everyone to do it because there's a Mass somewhere in the morning, but it is a very difficult one that I'd really like to get into more. I've only been to daily Mass a few times, but it really is nice. And then what was the last one? Was praying for priests. They're our spiritual fathers. They're the ones that are guiding us on a daily basis. You know, the teaching authority of the church is invested in the bishops, but they delegate it. You know, the priests are our shepherds. A pastor, that's what a pastor is the shepherd of the sheep, and we're the sheep. So we really ought to be praying for them. I I started praying for my pastor. I should have been praying for him all along, but it was during a course, a continuing adult education, faith formation at my parish, and they told us to write down the name of one person that you're going to dedicate yourself to pray for that you aren't currently praying for.
Okay.
And the team leader recommended, are you praying for Pastor Robert, Father Robert? And I said, no, I'm not. He said, well, you should be, so why don't you write him down? I said, okay. So that's been my daily habit ever since then. And for my bishop, Bishop Holmes here is such a great shepherd in Phoenix. He wrote a pastoral letter last year or 2 years ago now into the breach. It was just calling men to be faithful and to be engaged. We got to step into the breach. And he mentioned during one of his homilies talking about it, that where Jesus told Peter, the gates of hell will not prevail against you. The gates of hell won't prevail. He said the gates aren't an offensive weapon. That means that we're supposed to go to the gates of hell and storm the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to be on the defense. We're supposed to be on the offense out there trying to win souls for Christ. And that really touched me. And so I pray for him every day too. I don't really know the pastor even personally.
Okay.
I shake his hand after Mass every Sunday, but I like to think that my prayers are helping him, because that's a pretty big responsibility. He's the head, the lead pastor, but there's 3 priests. Now we just got a 4th one, actually, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And they're missionary priests, too. They're from the Apostles of Jesus. They're an African missionary organization. And I really think it's great that Africa for so long was the territory that was being evangelized by the church. Yeah. And now they're sending missionaries around the world. I really think it's a testament to the global universality of the church.
Now, this entire list that you've had, I know a lot of people will incorporate this, and after Easter Sunday, they're probably going to forget about it. Or, they're going to slack off. So how would you suggest making this, incorporating these things so that they stay on even after Easter? You have this prayer regimen even after Easter.
Well, first off is, don't try to do it all at once.
Yeah.
That's number one. That's how New Year's resolutions just fall by the wayside by January 2nd and 3rd, because everyone's going to be, this great person that's going to do all these things. Yeah. So you just pick one from that list, and just incorporate that. Once that becomes, kind of ingrained in your daily life, pick another one. Just add one at a time. We got to develop them as habits. Modern society is so focused on breaking bad habits, but we really don't talk about developing good habits.
Good habits, yeah.
That's what you have to do. You have to develop a good habit. You don't quit smoking, quit doing all these different things all and, go on a diet, start going to the gym. You don't do it all in one day. You got to kind of ease yourself into it. I think, for myself as an example, one of my Lenten practices last year was, because I'm Catholic now, no meat on Fridays during Lent,
Okay, yeah.
But then I carried that through the year, and it's just become a habit that now Friday comes around, I don't even consider eating meat on Fridays. Just because it becomes such a habit. It's Friday, no meat.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing you got to do. You got to just kind of incorporate it into your daily. Set 10 minutes aside during the day to say the Chapel of Divine Mercy. Just do it every day.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have this practice, especially in Southeast Asia, where at certain parts of the day, it's the university or the hospital or somewhere, they gong a bell. Like at 12 o'clock you have the Angelus, 3 o'clock you've got the Divine Mercy. So it's just a constant reminder that, you're in God's world or you're with Him instead of just being on your own, doing your own thing. So I think even in doing something like that, remembering at different parts of the day can kind of help.
Right, yeah.
That could.
Yeah, that's a terrific one. If you've ever prayed the Liturgy of the Hours, it's set times throughout the day. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's expert level. That's expert level prayer. Getting into that, but they have set times. It is. That's my local parish started on Wednesdays before Mass. They used to have a rosary after. They have daily. On Wednesdays, they have Eucharistic adoration. Okay. And then after the adoration, they pray vespers. Okay. And that goes on for about like an hour before Mass starts, Wednesday night Mass. And I really think that's a lovely thing. They pray it in a choir, one side of the church singing the one part, one side singing the other part. It really is nice. So, that's something you could get into is at every day at 3 o'clock, saying the Divine Mercy Chaplet or saying the Angelus or saying something, just setting yourself into kind of a rhythm. It's all about rhythm, getting into our rhythm, getting into that habit. And once you develop a habit, because we're all good at picking up bad habits.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's good. It's just human nature. You're good at picking up a bad habit. That comes naturally. So we got to start trying them as good habits, holy habits.
So why abstinence so important then? I mean, I know that people will just give up something like an easy thing and then forget about it, but how does abstinence make us better?
Well, abstinence, you know, it's a form of penance. That's why for years in the United States it isn't anymore on Fridays throughout the year. It's commenced from that. But it's the letter that was written from the Friday abstinence from meat.
Okay.
Said that they wanted people to do it out of a desire to do it, not out of sin, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they want you to choose it. That's why it's dispensed. You don't have to, but it's preferred. But you do have to. It's a form you have to do on a Friday, just to remember. Because when you're giving something up and you're denying yourself a legitimate good, it reminds you of the sacrifice of Christ. You know, He gave up the ultimate good. You know, He came down from heaven. He gave up. What was it Paul said? Godliness wasn't something to be grasped at. That He emptied Himself and took on the form of a slave and humbled Himself to death on a cross. You know, Jesus gave up everything for us just to take on humanity. Never mind the whole dying on the cross part. Just coming down from heaven, He gave up so much for us. So giving up a little bit, it kind of it unites you with Christ in a way that it reminds you of His sacrifice. And especially on Friday, I think a Friday penance, a Friday abstinence is really special because that's Good Friday.
Yeah.
And every day of the year, just like every Sunday can be a mini Easter Sunday, a small Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
So every Friday of the year is a mini Good Friday. So it really reminds us to unite ourselves with Christ, to really unite ourselves with His suffering in a small way. It's not having a cheeseburger on a Friday, don't compare to be nailed to a cross, but it's just a small way to remind ourselves of what Christ done for us. And people do that with a lot of things. You can do it with, Catholics have to do it with meat on Fridays during Lent. That's a rule. Yeah. That's a law, but you can do it with other things. Like people give up things like sweetener in their coffee, or they'll give up coffee altogether. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they do that. But there's sodas, different things. Give up watching TV and stuff. But when people start giving up, when they start using Lent as a diet, that's what happens a lot in America. They say, I'm going to give up chocolate. I'll lose all kinds of weight during Lent. You're missing the point.
Yeah.
You're missing the point. And another thing, too, is you can abstain from meat, but then eat lobster on Friday. And that, while you're maintaining the letter of the law, you're really violating the spirit of the law. Because another thing that abstinence does is it unites us in solidarity with the poor. Because meat, for so many centuries, was a luxury item. So if you eat, I mean, a lot of parts of the world, in America it's not. Fish is more expensive than steak in a lot of places. So it's actually, me having a cheeseburger is more solidarity with the poor in America than a piece of halibut, as strange as that sounds, But it's the truth. But that's what it was for. That was one of the reasons it was for years, was solidarity with the poor. And in a lot of parts of the world, people can't afford to eat meat. And it's good to remind ourselves of that we're privileged to live. I live in America where I can have red meat 24 hours a day at every meal. A lot of people can't. And so it's good to be reminded of that.
Do you feel that abstinence also makes you a bit more spiritually sharper? Like, a little more honed in on God's frequency and kind of more keen on the spiritual rather than the materialistic aspects?
Definitely. I think it does. It really, by denying yourself a legitimate good, so something that, not giving up, I'm going to give up this month beating up my wife. That isn't, you know what I mean? So you're denying something that you could have in a normal setting. Like I said, coffee or sweetener or what have you. You're making yourself, you're denying a legitimate good, so you're kind of focusing your mind more on things and not just on Christ's suffering and on the cross, but just on God in general. You're reminding yourself, when you don't have that, why is it I don't have that? It's for, to sharpen the mind. And also, the church, if you look at Mass itself, just look at the Mass during Lent. We abstain from saying Alleluia before the Gospel, and we abstain from the Gloria. We don't sing the Gloria during Lent. So on Easter Vigil, when they sing Gloria for the first time since, I guess, Mardi Gras, since Fat Tuesday, the first time you hear the Gloria, it's really, from not hearing it for 40 days,
it's so beautiful.
I actually cried on Easter Vigil last year when I heard they started singing the Gloria, and behind the altar at my church, they had it veiled. The crucifix was veiled with a big purple veil. And right when the parish started singing the Gloria, they pulled some sort of drawstring or something, and the veil fell down. And there's Jesus, and we're singing glory to God in the highest, and peace and goodwill to people on earth. It's just, it really was powerful.
Yeah.
So that abstaining, spiritually abstaining from that, even for it always strikes me.
There are a number of people now who will probably listen to this and say, okay, I can give up this. How would you suggest when it comes to picking things to abstain, or abstaining from things, to make it easier for people? Whether you should be doing this only for Easter, or whether you should be doing this for life, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to stop drinking for like 40 days and then pick it up again on Sunday. What practical tips would you say can make abstinence a more meaningful or better, easier for people?
Well, the practice of giving something up for Lent, abstaining from something for Lent is really, it's kind of an optional thing. It isn't really required by the church. Yeah. It's a thing that people do. It's like a personal piety thing. So then people start into the whole, can I break it on Sunday? Can I not break it on Sunday? And then you get into the argument of every Sunday of the year is a solemnity, so you don't fast on the solemnity and all that. And it's optional anyway, so if you want to break it on Sunday, go ahead. I just think it's harder if I used to give up soda. I haven't drank soda in a couple of years anyway, but I used to give up soda every Lent. Mm-hmm. And the couple of times I did decide to break it on a Sunday, on Monday, it was so much harder not to have a Coke. It just makes it more difficult on yourself. I find it easier just to go all the way through, just power through it. But if it's something you want to do, I think abstaining from things is definitely a great spiritual practice. Okay. Like the church in America, at least, on Fridays throughout the year, abstaining from meat is optional. But I think it's a great practice. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, a couple of years now, just the Fridays throughout the year. And I think it really is a great, because it reminds you every Friday, I wake up and I get breakfast and I go get lunch, and I'm at somewhere to get lunch, and I say, oh man, I forgot, it's Friday. I'll have a salad. And it reminds me, why am I doing this? Yeah. It kind of refocuses. It's just a weekly reminder. So I think abstaining from something, on a yearly basis is a good thing. I would recommend don't pick something, don't pick, like, if you love coffee, don't pick to abstain from coffee year round, because that just isn't going to work. Yeah. So pick something that you can do. Yeah. Baby steps, basically. Yeah. Pick something you can do, and grow into it. If you want to give up a certain kind of meat once a week, you want to fast a certain, like, no chicken once a week, and then you can expand it to beef and pork, and just go all the way around until finally you're not eating anything on Wednesday. You're fasting the whole day, or Fridays too. So just kind of work your way into it is what I'd recommend. Don't jump in with both feet. Yeah. Yeah. All
right. So the third thing on your list was the spirit of was alms giving, basically. And I know that this has been a big issue, because I know over here a lot of people are struggling with the economy and things like that. So it's not really out of the heart. We do it with a lot of grudge and mourning. And so what is the spirit of alms giving for Lent, the true spirit of alms giving?
The true spirit of alms giving. Well, St. Francis of Assisi said, in giving we receive. So you got to remember that when you give, if you give with a, not begrudgingly and not... not expecting anything in return. So if you give to somebody and you expect something in return from them, you're not giving, you're investing. That's not an alms, that's an investment. So if it's like the old etiquette of you don't invite someone over to a dinner that you want to return. It was an old thing, but you don't give expecting a return, because that's not alms giving, that's an investment. I think the spirit of alms giving, it's got to be. Jesus said to give with a cheerful heart. St. Paul actually said to give with a cheerful heart in 2 Corinthians. So we gotta imitate Christ. Christ gave everything for us. Yeah. And we can't give away everything. We have families, we have obligations, so you can't just give it all away. St. Francis did. He gave it all away. But not everyone's called to that kind of radical life of poverty. Yeah. If you are, great. Go join the Franciscans, the Dominicans. Go. Yeah. One of the mendicant orders, that's terrific if that's your calling, but we're not all called to that. So you gotta live within, you gotta give within your means. You gotta live within your means. You have to give within your means. I think it was in it might have been in 2 Corinthians, St. Paul was writing a letter talking about how they were taking up a collection for the church in Jerusalem. And he was telling them basically, don't outgive yourself. Don't pledge to give more than you can afford, because then you're going to be in a tough spot and we're going to have to bail you out. So you gotta balance it. Like anything, it has to be balanced. But you got to remember too that giving isn't just cash. It isn't just money. It's they talk about in the church a lot: time, talent, and treasure. So you can give your time. You can volunteer at a soup kitchen. You can volunteer at a homeless shelter, at a shelter for abused women. There's hundreds of different things you can volunteer at. In the church itself, even you can volunteer. If you're good at teaching people the faith, you can volunteer as a catechist at your church, or to teach like a Sunday school kind of program, or RCIA. You can volunteer at RCIA to be a sponsor to help someone into the church. There's a lot of things you can do with your time and your talent. Your time and talent kind of go together too, because we give our time at things we're talented at, and then treasure is a third in the time, talent, and treasure. Everyone, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're living in abject poverty, or if you're Bill Gates, you can give time and talent. Everyone can give that. Treasure, you can only give what you have. You can't give what you don't have. So that's why when the widow dropped her last penny in, Jesus said, look how much she gave. She only gave a penny, but it was still, in proportion to what she had, she gave everything. Or she was like the Mother Teresa of the gospel.
We should actually be incorporating this into our lives all the time.
Yes.
But we just do this for Lent, and then we do the rest of the year happens to be, I don't know, something else happens to us. So what is stopping us, and how do you think, can you give us some practical steps as to how we can keep going, not just for Lent, but throughout?
Right. Boy, that's $1 million question, isn't it? How do we continue these practices throughout the year? Like I said, we're not the Desert Fathers. We're not, monks living off in a hermitage somewhere. We're not hermit monks. We're not anything. We're regular people living in the world. We're lay people living our station in life. So you got to live within your station of life. So we're called to live in the world. Be in the world, but not of the world. So that's really the trick. Is we have to develop these habits. Like I said about habits, you have to develop them habits. You have to pick one of them prayer options that I laid out. There's plenty of other ones too, but I listed 5 or 6. Pick one of them. Do it every day for Lent. When Lent's over, continue it. Now, after RCIA, we were received into the church on Easter Vigil. There was still meetings all the way up until Pentecost, and it was kind of a time to talk about what happened and kind of get in the rhythm. I guess they were scared that everyone's going to be like, okay, I got the sacraments, and never come back. I guess that might be a problem. So they kind of like draw you back in, want you to keep coming to church, keep coming to Mass, So they try to develop that habit of going to Mass every Sunday, and that's the minimum of what we should be doing. But this world that we live in, the modern society has really relegated religion to the back seat. You identify yourself as just everyone as first your nationality or your gender or whatever. But we really need to be identifying ourselves as followers of Christ first and foremost. And that's the key. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian American. I'm a Christian man. That's what we really need to reclaim that, because it used to be that was the way. Religion was a very public thing. People went to church all the time. Now it's it's kind of like things that people don't really talk about in public. I don't know why. They say you're not supposed to talk about religion at the dinner table. Well, why not? I think we really need to reshape the conversation, and really we need to start driving the conversation rather than letting the conversation drive us. So that's if we reclaim that identity for ourselves and continue this and say, I'm a Christian. I'm gonna do these things. I'm gonna pray more. I'm gonna give more. I'm gonna fast more. And I'm gonna continue this on and try it. Like I said, do one of them prayer options. Abstain from one thing. Fast one day, one meal, one day out of the week. Pick a day, fast a meal that day, and then give $5 extra at the end of the week. Do that for a week, and then do it for another week, and just continue it. Just keep it going.
Tell us a little bit about your blog, and also tell us where we can find you.
Well, my blog, it's It actually started out a couple of years ago. I started writing articles here and there for Catholic365.com.
Yeah.
And, the funny thing is I hadn't written anything longer than a text message since I left school years ago. So it kind of came out of nowhere. And it really started out as just me explaining to myself more than anything the reasons for my conversion. It was while I was still in RCIA.
Yeah.
And just kind of like working through things, and by writing them out, I kind of developed kind of a pattern of thought and developed my own ideas for, you can write things out and figure out what you believe by writing them.
Yeah.
And it just went from there to, I had a lot of friends and family that would ask me questions because they knew I was in RCIA, so they knew I was connected to teachers and like, well, what does this mean in the Mass, and what does that mean in the Mass? And so I would kind of make explanations and stuff. People told me they liked the way I explained things, so I just continued it and started my own blog, and then I started a Facebook page a couple months ago, and I do weekly reflections on the Sunday Gospel readings.
Okay.
So it's nothing spectacular that I've got. I'm not saying anything. I'm not a theologian. I'm not developing new theories for the Bible. It's just I try to explain things. A lot of people aren't going to pick up systematic theology, volume 1.
Yeah.
They're not going to go pick that up and thumb through a 400-page theology book. But if I can explain to them, just in a couple of thousand words or less, a couple of the different points of Catholic theology, it breaks it down easier, makes it easier to understand.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to reach the common man who's not a graduate level theologian. Is not going to be thumbing through, like I said, theology insanity.
And there's so many people who actually explain on those levels, right? And then you wonder what they're talking about, because most of us lay Catholics are like everyday people, and we're not really rooted in all of it, but we know what we're doing.
Right, yeah. A lot of people haven't ever took a theology course in college.
Yeah.
I'd say 99% of the world's Catholics haven't. And that's not a bad thing. That's just normal people. And they need to, I think there's a yearning out there, and there's a longing for people to better understand their faith, especially amongst Catholics. But I'm open to all Christians. I wish we would all work together more. It really is. It's a shame that we are so separated as we are. So I like building bridges. I like, half my family's Protestant. So I like connecting with the Protestant and the Catholic side and everything, and try to, instead of focusing on the 5% that we disagree on, I like to focus on the 95% that we do agree on and work from there. But I think there's a real yearning out there amongst Catholics for a better understanding of their faith. And a lot of things too. A thing I run into a lot is when explaining, my conversion process, and I tell people, I converted, and the number one question they always ask me is, "Oh, you're married to a Catholic?" And I say, "No, actually, I'm not. I'm married. My wife's evangelical." And then that always, especially a cradle Catholic, they want to know more. That piques their interest. Like, so why did you convert? And it seems like there's this like candle, this light that goes off, light bulb that goes off inside them, like, our faith is worth converting to.
Yeah.
And it seems like it encourages them, and it encourages me too to continue doing what I'm doing, to try to help people better understand. Like I said, I'm not a theologian. I'm not writing theology books here. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just trying to help people better understand the truth, beauty, and goodness that is contained in the Catholic faith.
Tell people about your Facebook page or any other social media links that you have.
You can find me at Facebook at Catholic Convert 2016, or my blog is nowthatimcatholic.wordpress.com. And you'll find my links to Facebook and Twitter on there too.
Okay, all right. So I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast.
No problem.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could tweet me at Pamela Q Phones. I'm also on Facebook at Pamela Q Fernandes. So see you next time. Until then, God bless and take care.